all-time draft bust, Brian Bosworth.
No athlete is an athlete with the intention of being a bust.
Oh, took the ball away and went streaking off.
The word bust is like the absolute worst word you could give to an athlete. That means you came in and you gave no effort.
Coming out of the University of Oklahoma, Brian Bosworth was arguably the most hyped player in college history.
They all expected him to be the next great player, like a Dick Butkus.
Bos was sort of Madonna with shoulder pads, you know, only bigger.
The phenomenon of Brian Bosworth was totally created by Brian Bosworth and his agent.
They came up with this plan that they were going to create this bigger-than-life football player.
There was two people. There was Brian Bosworth, the nice guy, then there was the colorful Boz.
If it became time to go play and be aggressive, I could just say, okay, now I've put on the mask, and now I'm the Boz, like a superhero.
In 1987, the two-time Butkus Award winner was kicked off Oklahoma's team for failing a drug test. Despite the controversy, the Seahawks picked our number 3 draft bust in the supplemental draft.
There was not one team that would not have taken Brian Bosworth. He had cornerback speed along with linebacker hitting ability.
It was a media frenzy when he first got here. He flew into the practice field in a helicopter when he arrived in the city.
You just can't come in as a rookie and land in a helicopter and have a huge mouth and spend 45 minutes on your hair when you haven't made a tackle yet in the NFL.
That was the Boz's hairstyle. It wasn't a mullet. It wasn't a flat top. It was the Boz. The whole thing with hair is the energy starts from the top and it works its way down. So if you feel good about the top, everything down below is going to work better that day, too.
Our number 3 draft bust created plenty of buzz, signing a then-record 10-year, $11 million contract, suing the NFL for not letting him wear number 44, and smelling like a rose on television.
How will you separate yourselves from those barbaric hordes that exude a most malodorous air? New Right Guard Sports Stick from Gillette. Anything less would be uncivilized.
I purposely went to Seattle to play the game. I was asked to play my game specifically by the coach. They needed that arrogance that I had.
Chuck Knox liked Brian Bosworth because he was a target, and if you're a target, that opens things up for other guys to try to make some big plays.
My whole focus each and every week was, what do I got to do to get into somebody's head?
How can Bosworth play with his jersey like that? Hey, how can Bosworth play with his jersey cut off like that? Look at it. It's raggedy.
He started out with a game in Denver.
He had been mouthing off about what he was going to do to John Elway.
He was talking about, you know, John's teeth, you know, it was like Mr. Ed, the horse, and it didn't make he and John any closer, that's for sure.
First of all, I didn't like John because he was a good quarterback. And as a linebacker, that's your arch enemy.
Going into that game in Denver, they're selling Boz Buster T-shirts.
Saying no Boz and Bozo and the international symbol Boz, and the shirts sold like crazy.
Well, who created the T-shirts?
Turns out it was Boz's company.
To this day, everybody remembers Bosworth as a bust. But was he really?
Everybody will say, oh, Brian Bosworth, all hype, what a flop. You know, if you watched and studied what Brian Bosworth did, he was talented. He could run. He could tackle.
He was a much better player than people ever knew. All they remember is Bo Jackson tromping on him.
Bangs through Bosworth. Touchdown Raiders. Jackson took on Bosworth and just blasted and dragged him into the end zone.
No matter what he did, Bosworth failed to live up to the expectations he created and was branded a bust.
He had built himself into the super cartoon character. As soon as the cartoon balloon got punctured, you know, the whole thing was over. He sort of walked this tightrope of hype, and he fell off. He lost.
By 1989, injuries had derailed the Boz's once promising career. Thanks to Bo Jackson and all the hype, he'll always be remembered as a bust.
My body failed me, and that's part of the game. You know, I've had 25 surgeries. I've got more metal in me than the Terminator does. But if that was the same outcome and I was able to play 7, 8 years, then I would probably look at myself much differently than I do now. It's just been basically a struggle, filling the voids, being very fortunate in some films.
Action.
This is the Air Force. It's our bomb. They sent me to get it back.
It's It's not one of those things that this is my passion. My passion was football, and that's what I wanted to do. In some way, shape, or form, be part of it. Until I figure that out, I'm going to be kind of that cloud floating around the atmosphere.
Our next